and good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Expats Portugal calling webinar, taking the stress out of pet travel, considering a private charter to bring the furry friends in the family over to Portugal. Our special guest this evening is Adam Golder of Canine Jets. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. Nice to meet you all.
Good to have you here. We'll be talking about this process, and I think a good way of starting it off is to play your just 60 seconds of video, which kind of sets the scene for us. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to do that. Okay, let me press play on that. That looks amazing, Adam. Do you have to have a pet?
Do you know what? We don't have dogs. We've got two small children, but they're on a puppy campaign at the moment, so I'm sure it'll come very soon. But yeah,
well, to take advantage of the service, I'm thinking people are going. I'm going to borrow a pet and fly to Portugal. I want that treatment. That looks fantastic. So any offers of accompanying pets, I'm sure will be gratefully received tonight as well. Adam, great to have you here. How did you get into this?
So like 12 months ago, we didn't imagine to be launching Canine Jets and having a service catering for pets, but essentially, in COVID, basically, I was furloughed from my job. I've been working in media sales for 20 years, but always had a passion for aviation, and I got into private aviation about 10 years prior. And anyway, I got furloughed from my job. My wife was an executive PA, and she got made redundant. And it was just, we had 6 months of enjoying the weather here in the UK, and then after that, we were like, oh, what are we going to do? And so basically we got our heads together, and we always wanted to work in aviation, and private aviation in particular, because we have a lot of friends that work as pilots and operational sides. And we got together with one of our friends who lives in LA, and he charters quite a lot in America. And I was explaining that I wanted to get into sales and chartering, and he said, well, just launch your own company, and we'll support you and take you from there, and link you up with people. So we did. We took a bit of a chance, and launched our other sister company, G6 Aviation, beginning of 2021. But that was catering for high net worth individuals that couldn't fly on, couldn't fly first class because there was no flights going or very limited. And we've got, now 2.5 years on, we've got a handful of boutique clients, if you like, that are high net worth, and the odd pop star and sports star and things like that. But 12 months ago, we had a phone call from a gentleman that lived in London, actually, and he was like, oh, hi, I want to charter a jet for 10 adults and 10 dogs. I was like,
like you do.
Odd request. So because normally when people charter a plane, that's 2, 3, 4 people, family, maybe one dog, a couple of cats, or so 10 dogs and 10 adults is a bit interesting. So anyway, he introduced me to this Facebook world where he was part of, and they'd been let down by an operator, and they needed to find a jet, basically. So on Facebook, that some people may know this already, there are various groups where people get together and share a cost of a jet rather than basically paying for themselves, which is much more affordable, obviously. And the main aim is basically that your cats or dogs, because we cater for both, even though we're called Canine, can fly in the cabin with you to anywhere in the world, pretty much, that has no quarantine restrictions. So yeah, that's we got introduced to these groups about 12 months ago. We've flown over 450 dogs in the last 12 months across the Atlantic, to London, Lisbon, Paris, Germany, all over the place. But these groups on Facebook are great, and we still do the odd group as well. But everyone that we interacted with, they were just like, "Oh, it'd be so much easier if you could just launch a company where you could buy a seat. You didn't have to, trust people on Facebook that you've never met." And it's people that don't know aviation were kind of leading the groups, and it's very time heavy. So yeah, so last summer we started working on the concept of K9 jets, and been working with our attorney in the US, and getting everything put together. And yeah, we launched on March the 17th with like an initial schedule till August. We've launched routes until January, but now we're just planning into next year. So that's kind of where it's come from. But it's been really exciting, and we've been blown away really, because we've had we're a small family business, with a few other people working for us, and it's just kind of exploded because there's no one else doing this dedicated service. And yeah, we've been lucky enough to be over to America on TV. New York Times, Washington Post have featured the story, and Instagram and Facebook and social media has really picked it up. So
love it. What a fantastic story. And the owners look like they have quite a good time as well. Is that fair to say?
I think it's we believe it's the best way to fly with your animals, basically, because like Jackie was saying, so many people worry about putting their cats and dogs and into cargo. I'm not saying it's not safe, but it's the worry and the stress of what can happen and what could happen and what sometimes does. So for not actually a huge amount more money, you can actually fly yourself with your a cat or dog in the cabin, because the price of cargo is probably doubled or trebled over the last 2 or 3 years because of COVID. So when you're comparing like for like with an airline ticket as well, it's very comparable.
Right, well, we'll find out what it costs this evening a little later on in the conversation. But you mentioned Jackie there, who might like to tell us what her concerns and reservations or insights about this. Jackie, are you there? Are you able to?
Yeah, I
you're
keep
the owner of
freezing.
2 dogs. You're the owner of 2 dogs yourself.
Yeah, and what you realize, okay, I flew TAP between Boston and Lisbon with my dog. My dog was over the weight limit. So that generally you're not supposed to fly a dog that's more than 17 pounds and that could stay in a crate under your seat. And you realize to what degree you're at the mercy of who's ever working that flight, because we thought, okay, that's it. We're stuck in Boston. We cannot fly to Lisbon. We happened to have a person in charge of the flight who owned a French bulldog, who said, I'm going to let you on this flight with 2 dogs, even though they only allow per each flight class, like in the business class, there's allowed 1 dog. In economy class, you get 1 dog. So there's only a certain amount of dogs that are allowed even on a flight, and there are only 1 in each class, according to TAP. We were able, only because of this woman owned a French bulldog, to bring both of our dogs. And that was like hitting the lottery. And so it was so stressful getting the dogs on. And I thought, this just isn't worth it. I felt like I was so at the mercy of, I was at the mercy of TAP. And one of the things I think is really great about this, when you think about the cost of flying yourself and creating your animal, to bring your animal from, let's say, California, stopping in Germany, and then onto Lisbon, like, what's your peace of mind actually worth after a while? Because it's not that much of a differential in price. And when I saw the ad, or first time me and Astrid saw it, and we saw everyone on the flight drinking champagne and petting their dog, I thought, that seems so wonderful. I was ready to get on that plane. So yeah, okay. I love the idea.
Okay, so yeah, if you were in a position to be doing it now, you'd be taking that plane and drinking that champagne by the sound of it. And thank goodness you had a French Bulldog fan on tap that particular day. So thank you for that insight. And so there are quite a lot of variables with the usual domestic carriers. You'll notice tonight we've got Joanna and Camilla from Winsurance, and I know they handle pet insurance as well. So it might be useful to bring them into the conversation a little bit later on. Good evening, ladies. Lovely to see you. Thank you for being here tonight from Winsurance. So back to you then, Adam. Maybe we should say a little bit more about the traditional method. This is a fairly new matter, isn't it? People in great numbers bringing their pets over to Portugal. What normally happens? You were saying sometimes it's in cargo, sometimes it's under the seat. What tends to happen?
So with us,
no, conventionally.
Conventionally,
yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I think Jackie's kind of just summed it up, really. So typically, you may drop your dog off 3 hours before the flight if you're on the same one as them.
Yeah.
Then you go and check in for the security, and then if you're on the same flight, then obviously depending on where it stops, because I know a lot of the pet flights have to go via Europe to go into Lisbon for some reason or other. But yeah, and then when you get off the other side, then obviously you've got to wait for your pet to come off by the handling team, and then you follow them around and you get to meet them in the vets, if you like, which could be a number of hours after the flight, especially if you're flying at peak season, when I know I've been lucky to visit Lisbon quite a few times, and it's a major international airport. It's super small in terms of an international airport. There's not much space, especially with the Pope visit coming up, which I believe
Well said. Yes,
chaos.
absolutely. Yeah.
And potential strikes, which I don't know have been ruled out now. But anyway, but yeah, so it can be hours apart from your pet, which is kind of what Jackie was saying. But the beauty in the reverse, really, from us is that we fly currently from New Jersey on the East Coast to directly to Lisbon. It's a 6.5 hour flight. You arrive an hour before the flight, and that's purely just in a private terminal. So there's no queues for security. There's no thousands of people there. There's just the people really that are on your flight or any other flights that are leaving that night. And you arrive an hour before just to mix with the other passengers that are on the flight with you and their dogs, which is like essential bonding time, because they all become part of the pack, if you like, who will be flying that night. It's always a nighttime departure from the East Coast, which is generally around 9 p.m. So yeah, once everyone's settled and you board about 15 minutes before, we have a pre-allocated seating plan depending on the temperaments of the dogs, which you tell us. And then it's about 6.5 hours over to Lisbon. So you depart about 9 p.m. in a local time in New Jersey, and then arrive just before 9 a.m. in Lisbon.
That's
and
superb.
You simply get off the plane. I don't know if many of you guys have flown into Lisbon commercially, but you when you arrive into Lisbon, actually you get taken off by a private handling team. They fast track you through all the security and customs, and then basically, if you've been to Lisbon, you may have noticed the vet is actually in the baggage hall. The vet there does the checks, which takes 5 or 10 minutes, and then off you go. So people are carrying your bags for you. You don't need to worry about your luggage, and you just need to worry about your pet, which you're not left or separated at any time, really.
That's amazing. Okay, and then Hawaiian garlands as you come through no, that's probably pushing it a bit, isn't it? But that sounds wonderful. The hour before is superb, isn't it? And I noticed you've got a blue carpet instead of red carpet. Is that because dogs can only see in monochrome?
It's not intentionally, to be honest.
But that looks amazing. There's a little carpet to go up the steps, and then you're on the plane, and as you say, you're seating everybody according to temperament. That's something that somebody is asking us already. What if my doggies aren't super chill, says Susie. When I see photos of charters, all the dogs are just laying around being well behaved, as though it were an Instagram video shoot.
Yeah. Do you know what though? I mean, I meet all the flights into London and sometimes into Lisbon as well, and see them off sometimes. And that essential hour when they first meet, there's a few barks and what have you, and sometimes, rarely, there's two dogs that don't get on, and we just move their seats so they're other sides of the plane. But after a bonding time, that is almost almost as if they know they're being treated as VIPs. And because generally when it's a nighttime flight, especially, it's naturally they've been exercised throughout the day and they're just naturally tired. So after takeoff, generally all the dogs sleep through the night, which is
better
purpose.
behaved than the humans, I dare
Well,
say.
that's it. I think
Often the way, isn't it?
especially because it's an open bar as well. So a lot of the
What?
humans like to get
Jackie,
stuck in.
it just got better.
You just need
If
to
it's
get
a-
your dog now.
Wait. What? Can you say that again?
if you do pastel de natas and an open bar, Jackie's going to book it anyway.
Oh my gosh. That's like a party plane. I mean,
It is
what
really,
could be
isn't it?
better?
That's incredible.
Wow.
That's incredible. I have been told that dogs do see in blue and yellow. So actually the blue mat is the perfect choice. Adam, you're way ahead of us there. That's fantastic. So on the behavioral note again, you said you do cats and dogs. Do they fly in a mixed consignment, as it were? Mixed
Yeah,
charter?
so the beauty of flying dogs with us, they're not in crates, but obviously for obvious reasons, cats have to stay in their carriers. All times of the worst that would be could be interesting. But yeah, so we keep the cats away from the dogs as much as we can. They're generally on the table or on the side away. But yeah, but we do have a mixture. Typically is 10 up to 10. So we have 10 seats. It's up to 10 humans and 10 dogs. But sometimes 7 dogs and 2 cats or something like that. So
right, okay. So that's how it works. It's 10 humans, 10 pets on each charter flight.
Typically, yeah.
That's how it'll be booked up. Okay, fantastic. Thank you everybody for your questions and telling us a little bit about your pooches and pets as well. I think you, Miko, you've come to the right place. We're looking into the best way to move 2 dogs. And they are boxer mixes there with 2 humans. You may have found it this evening. Denise as well asking if you have any services from South Africa. You mentioned it's mainly East Coast America over to London and Lisbon. Are you dealing with any other countries?
We're not at the moment. So we purely just fly from New Jersey to London, Lisbon, Paris at the moment. But we are rapidly growing the network into next year. So we hope to have a West Coast flight from LA direct to Lisbon, which would be great. But we don't currently fly from South Africa, but we do get a lot of requests. And basically, the beauty of us is that if we know there's a demand there, we'll try and put a flight on to case for that market. So we do actually get a lot of requests for South Africa. It's not always Lisbon or Portugal, but sometimes there is. So
it is worth Denise getting in touch, and definitely worth Expats Portugal premium members keeping in touch because they get a discount as well. And you'll tell us about the fees in just a moment. Peter's in from, I'm going to try this in Wales, Chydchweli, possibly. And I think he's got quite a few dogs, so he might be a single customer on one flight. We'll see what he has to say a bit later on. Does Canine Jets have partners in the US who can help with the feeder service? I think that means bringing pets to, you know what that means, Adam, right?
Well, I assume just getting to other parts of the US from New Jersey, but we don't have a partner. But there is a domestic airline which allows pets up to, I think, £79 in the cabin. Yeah. So we don't have a weight restriction on. We have Great Danes and all sorts in our aircraft, but there's an airline called JSX. They're a business airline. They allow pets in the cabin. You have to buy them a seat, I think. Technically, but yeah, they fly from New York right across the West Coast. You can't do it in one go, which is a bit of a pain. It can sometimes take 4 legs to get there, but yeah, they fly to Texas, Denver, and then Florida, Miami, then right across to LA, Palm Springs. But yeah, they're definitely worth checking them out in terms of America.
All right, fantastic. David, thank you for your hands up there. We'll get, when we finish recording, we'll definitely go to Mike's on hands up session. If for the time being, if you could put your question in the chat or wait till after the recording if you want to ask it personally, that'd be great. Eureka in Northern California on the coast, 55 degrees at the moment. We have 3 large dogs. Do we need 1 person per dog? There is a small airport here. Would we be able to fly here from San Francisco or East Coast only? I think you've addressed the last part, but yeah, what's the ratio of owners to dogs?
So our policy at the moment, which is basically based on the size of the jet, is 1 large dog per seat. It doesn't mean that you have to have 3 adults flying. You could have potentially one adult, but you'd have to buy 3 seats, just from a pure space perspective.
Yeah.
Because you just from the video, if you the what we call a heavy jet, which a transatlantic perfect made, but when you have 10 humans and 10 large dogs, it becomes very cozy. So that's why we have to make sure that we don't squash dogs in there. We have to be cautious of that. So yeah, one seat is one large dog basically. So, or if you've got 2 smaller dogs under 50 pounds, then you can have that per seat basically.
Okay, but could you be one person with those 3 dogs? You don't have to have one person per dog.
No. You could that person could fly on his or her own with 3 dogs, as long as they're capable of looking after them, because they have to be on leash the whole time and sit by your feet. So, but yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's good. We knew this question would come up. Thank you, Patrick and Barbara, for this. And Jim, what about the bathroom facilities? I'm sure that's fairly straightforward for the humans, but for the animals, what do you do? Have you got a great big litter tray on the plane somewhere?
So the idea is that a lot of the owners restrict the diet slightly on the day. They thoroughly exercise. This is in theory, and thoroughly exercise them. And the good thing about the airports where we fly, or the terminals where we fly from, there's loads of grass areas. So right up until they board the flight, they can use the facilities outside. But generally through the night, which is another reason why we fly at night, they'll just sleep. But worst case scenario, we provide puppy pads across the plane basically, because they're anywhere between $25 and $50 million aircraft, so we have to protect them, because otherwise we end up having a bill. But yeah, for worst case scenarios, there are puppy pads, and we ask people to bring their blankets, and they just get disposed of if ever needed, which is very, very rarely on a night flight, because they just don't like they would at home.
All right. So yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. So yes, they will be house trained, and they'll be not thinking to go inside, as it were, what looks like a home. Without wanting to be too indelicate about this, a puppy pad is an absorbent material that goes on the floor. It's not a diaper nappy for the pet.
Do you know what? Well, we provide the puppy pads, but some people actually bring dog diapers.
Do they?
Which is always funny to see. But yeah, they do make them. So some people do.
Okay.
When they know that their dog may go, they know that people know their dogs better than we do. So sometimes they bring them.
There you go. Okay, so I think we've dealt with that adequately. Belt and braces there. What about dogs that bark? A lot, especially the small ones, do tend to yap. How do you deal with that? Because that's the equivalent, isn't it, of being near the crying baby on a plane?
Yeah, I think so. But like I said, there's always some barks at first. It's always generally the smaller ones barking at the bigger ones, just from a protective space perspective. But yeah, once everyone's bonded and settled down on the flight, again, at night time, it's generally quiet through the whole flight. But obviously, we can't control dogs, so sometimes that happens, and it's just. And I think the great thing about flying with other dog owners, everyone knows it's a dog flight, so there's everyone sympathizes with that particular dog or owner. So
of course.
Acceptable.
So there you go, Denise asking that question, and I think we've dealt with most of the questions one way or another from different angles. If I haven't, please pop that in the chat if I've missed anything. My old lady is so deaf, she can't hear how loudly she barks to hear herself. Okay, but I'm sure you have strategies, Denise, for dealing with that. So let's find out how much it's going to cost. Alex is asking a question: for 2 people and 3 dogs, how many seats would we purchase? And so that's a good example, a use case study there. And how much would that cost?
So our next flight is on the 10th of November from New Jersey to Lisbon, and the seat cost is $11,850 per seat. So obviously, if you have 3 large dogs, you'd need 3 seats. If you have 2 large dogs, you'd need 2 seats basically. So yeah, 11,850. There is a discount for premium members for Expats Portugal. It's $100 per seat. So every penny counts, or every cent counts.
Yes.
You can simply go online, like you would with a regular airline, book on Amex credit card, or you can wire the funds if you wish. And yeah, that's how it all works. But our next flight is on November the 10th.
Okay.
We generally have flights typically this year we've had a flight every 3 months. to Lisbon. We are looking at adding LA to Lisbon as well next year. And we haven't launched the 24 schedule yet. So we're about to do that in the next few weeks.
Well, it sounds like it's going from strength to strength. And that's all in. That's there are no other costs to add to that.
Yeah, no. So even if you pay by credit cards or Amex, we take the hit on the charge.
Okay.
There's no fees. The only other fee that you'll pay is for the paperwork that you need to have done to produce in Lisbon.
Mm-hmm.
So to enter the EU, you have to have an EU health certificate and current rabies jab. Basically, it has to be valid. That gets endorsed by a department in the US called the USDA. And we have to upload that or send it to the operator and actually the vet in Lisbon a day or 2 days prior to you fly. They check it over, and then when you get to the vet, they'll take 40 euros off you to welcome you to the country and check the paperwork. But yeah, that's the only other fees you'll pay just for the actual dog paperwork and when you arrive into Lisbon.
Open bar and puppy pads included then by the sound of it. And I suspect that's another benefit actually of working with you, because I've heard people turning up with that one dog from, a business class or economy, having to wait for the vet to appear at the airport, and they're not there. They don't know where they are, and that can be a little bit of not what you want when you land. And I guess when a charter's arriving with 10 pets on board, that vet is waiting for you and ready to not least to collect all those 40 euros off each person. So that's great. That's really helpful, Adam. Thank you so much. We will conclude the recording in just a moment. There is a discount, as you said, for Expats Portugal Premium members. And we will be around later on in about an hour's time for the Dream Team session. Every Thursday evening at 9 o'clock, we have the Dream Team session with all those professionals who can help you move to Portugal and no doubt connect with Adam and the work Adam's doing. Is there anything we forgot, Adam? Anything we need to remind people about? Your last words before we end the recording here?
I think if you're interested in flying with us or chartering your own aircraft, simply just go to our website, register your interest. Even if it's from a destination that we're not flying from currently, because that helps us look at future trends and seeing where everyone wants to fly from. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to have a direct conversation with myself, we have a free callback service, so I'm more happy to call you. We work into the evenings because we're used to dealing with people on the west and east coast, so more than happy to speak to anyone on a one-on-one basis.
Good on you. And that website address then, please?
It's k9jets.com.
Brilliant. Okay. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play this film once more because I want to see it again and enjoy the flight in 60 seconds here. So we'll conclude with this and we'll come to more of your personal questions in just a moment after this.